Good evening. Good evening to everyone. We are Narrow Way Life, and let's tell you a little bit about us, especially those who are joining us for the first time. What do we do? So my name is Mitra Kazabo. My husband is Lincoln Kazabo. He's out with the baby for now, so you may not see him as yet. So some of the things that we do include a prayer line. And this is one of the things that we believe is needed, especially at this particular time. We know that there's so much happening and everyone is seeking to either move into the country, get prepared to move into the country. And one of the things that is very important is for us to have God's guidance and for us to be open to listening to God's will as it pertains to exactly where he wants us individually. So that is something that we need to focus on, and that's why we have decided that a prayer line is very, very important. So this prayer line, we start every Sabbath morning from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. and we have prayer, we have Bible readings, and we have testimonies. And the testimonies are my favorite. These are where persons share their experience of either moving into the country or just what God has done in their life for at the time. It doesn't matter. So we encourage persons to share because it really does encourage everyone. So this is one of the things that we do to help encourage and to support each other, especially in country living. We know that there is a need for support. And this is one of the reasons why we seek to have this prayer line. We also provide country living consultations at all stages of the country living journey. So whether you are seeking for land, you have your property already, maybe want to start up a rain harvesting system, or you are seeking to set up your home. Anything, we help you decide. We help you go to God prayerfully. We, with the skills that God has taught us and we have been sharing throughout the weeks that has been passed, these are some of the things that we do. So sometimes you see a property and maybe you didn't even consider everything. So that extra consultation or advice can open up your mind to so much. So this is one of the things that we offer. Property development and planning. And also clearing. So you found your property and you just don't know where to start. You want to know the cost of maybe developing that property, clearing it out. Where should I put the home? Where should I put the garden? All of those things are important. And like we saw in Luke, we need to plan. So to have a plan, even as you have your property, is important. So you know where you're going and you don't get stuck in a rut. So these are some of the things that we offer. We also provide home construction and furnishings. So families who have their country property already and they don't want to take a huge loan maybe to get a home, we do consultations to help you decide and help you to design a home that is affordable for you. We also provide outdoor recreational activities. And what are these for? It is for the development of skill. One of the things that I've learned is the more you go hiking and camping and just being out in nature, it helps to encourage and foster the love for nature. So especially in families where maybe the wife wants to move out into the country, the husband doesn't necessarily want to move out into the country, and there's a battle there, like, what do we do? This is a very, very good way to start. So you just go out on an outdoor recreational activity, whether it be a camp, a hike, a kayaking trip. All of those things assist us in being more comfortable in nature. So this is one of the reasons why we ask families to consider these activities even before you move out into the country, to get the children accustomed and other persons accustomed to the move. We also provide seminars and skills training. So this is one of the seminars that we offer, and some skills training that we would do is survival skills. And these are to assist families with camping out on the property. So in previous sessions, we learned that when we now have our properties, we need to visit, have a site visit, look at the property, see what it entails, look at where things supposed to be, look at the plan that we had for the property, and consider what should we change, where should certain things go on the property. So these are some of the things that you do when you have a country living property. And one of the things that assists families in doing so is having the proper skills. So when you go to the property, you know exactly what you're looking for. So this is another service that we offer. We also provide Bible studies, and these Bible studies were done every Thursday evening. But now, as we have this seminar going on, we have postponed it for some time. So just stay tuned to our website so that you can be made aware of the next session. So one of the other things that we offer is real estate for country properties. So for example, we assist families in finding country properties, and we also, if families in St. Lucia seeks to sell maybe one of their properties and consider buying another, we also assist in these aspects as well. So feel free to contact us, visit our website, shoot us an email if you are interested in any of those. Currently, we're working with families on a 15-acre property, and I believe there are 4 acres remaining that has not been secured as yet. So feel free, contact us. It doesn't have to be the one we're working on currently. There are always opportunities for God's children to move out into the country. So next is our country living quote for this evening. Our country living quote for this evening. Believers who are now living in the cities will have to move to the country that they may save their children from ruin. Attention must be given to the establishment of industries in these families, which these families can find employment. So here we see that employment is very important. They are very, very important. All that needs to be done cannot be specified till a beginning is made. So we understand that we have to move out into the country, but there needs to be a start. And if you were there from the beginning of this program, we did getting out of debt. Sometimes this is where you have to start. Sometimes you already have a property, so you need to start somewhere. Pray over the matter, and remember that God stands at the helm, that he is guiding in the work of various enterprises, a place in which the work is conducted on right lines is an object lesson to other places. There must be no narrowness, no selfishness in the work done. The work is to be placed on a simple, sensible basis. All are to be taught not only to claim to believe the truth as the truth, but to exemplify the truth in daily life. Letters 25, 1902. So this is our country living quote for today. And we want everybody to remember that there is a need to start. So whether or not, and you may not know everything, as my husband is saying, you may not know everything, but you need to start. You need to start. And an industry is necessary. Employment is necessary. So before we go into our presentation for this evening, our quote that has pushed us and helped us to move and start this aspect of our ministry. And somebody's asking, are these services only Some of them are only in St. Lucia, so building the homes. But the consultation, we do it all over because it's, there were some skills that we taught some persons where you can use Google Earth to assist you in making decisions of what property that you're looking at, or the history, the topography, how the water passes through the property. So we do offer the consultations all over. But the building skills, the building, it's the setup is for St. Lucia for now. So our quote that helps us to go forward: more and more as time advances, our people will have to leave the cities. For years, we have been instructed that our brethren and sisters, and especially families with children, should plan to leave the cities as the way opens before them to do so. Many will have to labor earnestly to help open the way. And we always say, Lord, use us how you see fit. We want to open the way for as many families as possible to move out into the country. Whether you are just seeking to buy the land, or you have not even considered country living, but you just have this interest, we want to help everybody find their place in the country. Our quote for and our scripture for this evening, Psalms 121. I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord, which made heaven and earth. So let us keep that in mind as we seek to learn about creating industry. And this is very, very important for us as persons seeking to move out into the country to consider. Employment is important. So I will stop sharing so I can give our speaker from Eden Lifestyle, Mrs. Inga St, who is going to be telling us a little bit more about creating industry. And I am excited. I will allow her to let me. Let me allow her to come in so she can. All right. So I will allow her to share her screen at this moment to share with us a little bit more about creating industry. Okay, so I think. All right. So let me. Good evening to you, Mr. Juste. Thank you so much for accepting and joining us this evening.
Good evening. Hello, everyone. Is everyone seeing my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen. Let me just make sure. Yes, I can see your screen. All right.
Good evening. I hope all are doing well. So tonight I'm going to be story and basically some pointers of how you can start your industry, what you need to be thinking about. Something very simple, but very important. So the first thing that we're going to do before we start is have a word of prayer. Let us pray. Gracious and loving Lord, our dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for blessing us with this opportunity to learn of you and to learn of the industry that you have created for us. Lord, you've given us talents. You've given each and every one of us talents, and we are to use those talents according to your will to create industry, to create ministry, and to work and do for those around us and for ourselves. Lord, we thank you so much for all that you have done for us in our lives, and I pray that this discussion may be a blessing to each and every one of us, including myself. We thank you and we praise you in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, so creating industry. This is a quote from the Ministry of Healing, page 196, and it says, "Those who are taught to earn what they receive will more readily learn to make the most of it. And in learning to be self-reliant, they are acquiring that which will not only make them self-sustaining, but will enable them to help others. Teach the importance of life's duties to those who are wasting their opportunities. Show them that Bible religion never makes men idlers. Christ always encouraged industry. Why stand ye here all the day idle? He said to the indolent. I must work while it is day. The night cometh when no man can work. Matthew 26 and John 9:4. So right here, through inspiration, we can see that God is telling us he doesn't want us to be idle. He wants us to work while it is day. We have the time now whilst we're on this earth to work and to do. And he's given us everything that we need and all of the talents that he's given us to do what is necessary. We just need to take those steps and pray and ask him to help us and show us what we need to do in the steps that we need to take. We also need to educate ourselves in the right principles. So today's class agenda, the first thing I'm going to do is give my story, a little bit of background, and it's just going to lead up to, the steps that I took and why I decided to do what I'm doing today in terms of industry. I'm going to talk to you about the mindset that you need to have, because that's also a big factor in my walk and in my life, especially in terms of, my life work. I'm going to talk a little bit about how to get started and choosing your products and services, what is needed to launch that product, and basically launching your product and everything that entails. So who am I? My name is Inga St. Juste. I am a woman. I'm a minister with Eden Lifestyle Ministry. We are medical missionaries, and I also do my best to use all of the talents God has given me to minister to others and to bless his name. So I grew up in the little island of St. Lucia. This is my mother, my father, and my little brother when you're younger. And I grew up in a family of artists. My dad, he's a musician. He's a bass player. He used to play with a very famous band on St. Lucia. He's one of the best bass players in the island. And my mother, she's from Washington State, and she moved from the States to St. Lucia as a pioneer for her religion, which is the Baha'i faith. That's the religion that I grew up in. And she's a very well-known artist. She's a painter. She does very big, just amazing paintings. And she paints from her dreams as well. And so art is something that has been in my family, and I grew up with those things and develop those skills as the years went by. And we always had opportunity to do stuff with our hands because, you know, everybody is very art oriented. So one of the things, my mom had lots of fashion books in the house, like Vogue magazine, and she had this huge Vogue book with patterns in it. We had a sewing machine in the house. I used to sew all the time. And as I got older, when I got to be about the age of 9, I started to sew more. And my grandfather bought me a sewing machine because my mom's sewing machine was starting to get old. And, you know, I really wanted to, you know, I would fix it up and try to do what I can with it. And then, so my grandfather decided, I'm going to get you a sewing machine. So we did when I was 9 years old. And I just started sewing away. And I was really interested in fashion and design. This is a picture of my mom and dad, and this is Derek Walcott. He's a Nobel laureate, and he was having an art show. And this outfit that you see here, I'm 9 years old in this picture. I made this outfit from scratch. And so that was one of the first things that I really made in terms of a complete outfit. And my mom was really proud of me. And that's where I really started taking off in, you know, sewing and designing and fashion and stuff like that. So as I was interested in it, and I went on throughout my years. And then when I was 21 years old, the Lord called me. I grew up in the Baha'i faith, but I wasn't really interested in religion as I got older. When I got to be about 13 years old, I was not interested in the religion I grew up in, or any religion, to be honest. And I just went off into the world. I was just doing my own thing, and until the Lord called me. And I got baptized at the age of 21 into the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And that's where I started learning more about, you know, right principles and truths in the Bible. And one of the things that stood out to me was modesty. And I started studying a little bit more into that. And I was encouraged because I had the talent in sewing and design and the arts and fashion, that God wanted me to use that for his glory. So I decided that I was going to take my knowledge, my worldly knowledge, and try to revamp it into modesty. And I decided to start a clothing business where I would, you know, sew garments that were modest, helpful, and that looked cute for young women who were seeking for something more modest to wear. But a few years later, when I met my husband, Renoir. Now, I'm not the biggest business mind, and I especially wasn't, as I was younger, I learned some things over the years, but I grew up in an artist family, so we're more of like the starving artist type, and we're not in that way, business and marketing and all of those things. So we partnered together to start our clothing brand, Chase. And Chase is basically a brand that it looks like modest, well, it's just the brand. The brand is Chase, and we decided to start off by creating clothing that is beautiful, modest, helpful, trendy, stuff to cater to a younger crowd. We want modesty to look nice, not frumpy, old-fashioned, something more modern and interesting, something that people will gravitate towards, even if they're not so much interested in an avenue also to reach with the true Bible. So these are some of the garments that were part of our collection, and I made everything from scratch. So we would buy the material and everything from scratch. And that's when we just add our clothing to this platform called Etsy, where you can sell handmade items. And so as you can see, we have a few items on there, and during the pandemic, we did some masks and stuff like that. But this is just how we started out. Being that we're missionaries, we didn't have a lot of the means to start a big business, but we could, start out promoting the brand and, getting it out there, letting people know about it, and, just doing what we can with what we have. We also started a YouTube channel where we would share, tips and, kind of like short, encouraging, just encouraging videos on, modesty and just principles in dress and principles in just being a woman, that, pinpoint the stigmas that we have in our society right now surrounding women and how they dress and, how they look and so on. So we started talking about those things, and we also had videos of me making clothing so that people could follow tutorials on how to make a skirt or a dress. We also started a Instagram channel, Instagram page, where I share modest outfit ideas and inspiration, and also things that I find that people would be interested in, that are modest and that look great. And so if you're interested in that, feel free to follow me on there. So that was also a avenue, especially Instagram, to grab a larger audience so that we could launch our product, which is modest swimwear. Now we want to start a business is in our minds much bigger than what it is now, but we start with what we have and we do what we can. And right now our next project is launching a swimwear collection, which is going to be, these are some of the sketches, how it's going to look. We have a top and a skirt and some dresses that are swimsuits, so that, and they're to look, nice and modern and different than what you usually find. Right now, we really find mostly Muslim modest clothing, and Pentecostal maybe have some things as well. But one of the things that was hard for me to find was swimwear that I liked. So this is what I decided to create. And also I went out and I bought a swimsuit that I really liked. And I posted in my stories on Instagram, and a lot of the women were like, "Oh, how did you get your swimsuit?" And so that was an indicator for me that this is where I need to start, because it's something that people are looking for and you can't find much of. So this is our new project, and we're hoping to launch soon. But we're going to go through some tips and some just a breakdown of what I did and what I'm doing to start my product, to launch my product. And hopefully that will give you some idea of how you would launch your product. So number one, in starting any kind of business and any kind of ministry, is your mindset. And this is a big factor because it was for me at least. And I know it's a big factor for a lot of people as well, because for one, we live in a society that, the media constantly gives you what you should be thinking and how you should see things. So it's kind of hard for us sometimes to come outside of that and look at things differently in order to move forward. So Number one in mindset is to get rid of self-doubt. Self-doubt is just, it's a big thing for a lot of people. It was for me. Sometimes we grow up, hearing certain things, sometimes we're bullied, and those things carry on through our whole life. We just keep constantly telling ourselves the things that we were told before, somebody was trying to cut us down or something like that. So getting rid of self-doubt is really number one. Because if we know to ourselves that we're able to do anything with God, then we shouldn't be doubting ourselves. As long as we have Christ with us, we can do anything. Never say, I can't, and always say, how can I? It's very straightforward. If you say you can't, you won't. But if you always say, how can I do it? You'll always find a way to do it. Sometimes our parents, our family members or friends, project their views on us, and they say, oh, you won't be able to do that, or you can't do that, because, maybe they were told stuff like that when they were growing up. And then, they project their views on you. And then you think, oh, I can't do this, or I can't do that. It's not true. You can. You just have to find a way to do it. Also, the school system is bent around creating workers, basically. So you go through your whole school life thinking, okay, I need to get this kind of knowledge and that kind of knowledge so that I can work for someone. But we hardly ever see, I want to get this knowledge so that I can start something of my own. The school system that we are raised in creates workers. That's what it's there for. So sometimes we have to change our mindset on that as well and look to different avenues for education so that we can start our own thing. Also, escaping the 9-to-5 trap. So we constantly, we go to school, we try to learn things so that we can get a good 9-to-5 job that pays us well, so we can just go out to work and come home. But sometimes, that's a trap, because if you say, okay, I'm just gonna get a 9-to-5 job for the rest of my life, your whole life will be a 9-to-5 job. And then where is the extra room for starting a ministry, starting an industry, starting a school, starting, anything that you want to start, you have to devote your time and energy to it. And if you're devoting your time and energy to someone else's dream, then you'll never work on your own. Though sometimes, sometimes you need to, get a job to start up, and you might need to do something outside of what you're working on so that you can create some income to put into that, but you never want to stay there. Don't limit yourself, because there is no limits on God. So if you're able to reach the Lord your God, then you're able to reach anything. The sky is the limit. Literally, the sky is the limit. All things are possible with God. Also, failures are lessons. And failures is just the word that we're using, but a failure is a lesson. There's no failure. I remember this quote that I've heard or I've seen a few times. It says, there's no failure except giving up. I can't remember who said it, but it's so true. If you give up, it's not going to happen. So then it would automatically be a failure. But if you take that failure as a lesson, and you keep getting up and you keep trying again, then you're going to move forward. You're going to move forward. Psalms 37, 23 and 24 says, the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delighteth in his way. Though he fall, he shall not be utterly cast down, for the Lord upholdeth him with his hand. And this is a principle. While this is talking about our walk with God and our sin, it's a principle. If we fall down, we have to get back up again. If you fail, you get up and you try again. For a just man falleth 7 times and riseth up again, but the wicked shall fall into mischief. Proverbs 24:16. So a just man, he falleth 7 times and he gets back up. So if you are striving for the mastery, you're going to get back up every time, and you're going to keep going and keep going. And all of those times that you fall, you learn that lesson and you get back up, you won't fall in that same issue again. You'll learn from it and you'll keep progressing. So number 2, how to get started. So what you want to do is you want to find a niche. So for me, the big niche is fashion. And then you niche down again, and I niche down to modest fashion. And then once you've established what your niche is, then you're going to want to make sure it's a big enough niche, but it's not too broad either. Especially when you're starting out, you want to make sure you have something that's very targeted so that you can target a specific audience so that you know that it's going to work. If you target too broad of an audience, then it's going to make it difficult to really to reach out there, because there's so many big brands out there. There's everything under the sun. There's so many products out there, so many services out there. But if you really niche down and you're targeted, people are going to be looking for that specific thing. And then you can progress and move up the ladder and, create more out of your product or your service. So then you want to find your target audience and what they like. So I chose modest fashion, and then I thought to myself, okay, it took me a little while to really decide to start with the modest swimsuits, because I kept thinking to myself, okay, there are a few modest places out there. I need to have something unique. I need to have something, that people are going to say, oh, I can go to Chase and get this. So then you want to find your target audience. So I know my target audience are young women who are seeking to dress modest. And I figured out that what they like is something that they cannot find, which is modest swimwear. And that's why I decided to start that. So for example, if you want to start like a plant-based restaurant, you want to think about, okay, what can I start with? You want to niche it down to, maybe I'm going to start with pastries, or I'm going to start with vegan meats, or I'm going to start with desserts, or something like you want to niche it down to something specific and make that thing unique, so that people will say, I'm going to go to them for this, to put your name out there. Number 3, choosing a product or service. So once you figure out what your audience likes or what they need, you're going to find that product. So I figured out my product is going to be modest swimwear. So you find the problem or your pain point, and I realized that I'm actually my target audience. So you find out what the problem is. The problem for me, one of the big problems for me was I would always look for modest swimwear. Now, this is not something, most people in general, even most Christians, you put on a long skirt to come to church. You go to church in your long skirt, and then throughout the week, you wear your short skirt or your pants or short pants. And that's just normal. You go to the beach in your bikini, it's just normal. You're going to the beach, right? But the principles of modesty, are not specific to one portion of your life or one time of your life or time and place. So for me, I wanted to have something modest to swim in as well, because to me, the same principles apply. So I looked everywhere. There's a few different places that have modest swimwear, but they're just not what I want. Sometimes it's just the pants are tight, and maybe it's just like a rash guard with and no skirt, but I wanted something modest to cover my body. So, and there's a lot of women out there, young women, who are also looking for stuff like that. So I did find a swim dress, and the problem was that it was expensive. Also, I would have to look few and far between. There would be maybe something in one store, and then I have to go to another store. It was hard to find. So that is the pain point right there. So then after you find out the problem, then you solve the problem. So I finally got a swimsuit, and I posted in my stories, and people were like, where did you get your swimsuit? Where did you get it? Where did you? And I was like, okay, I'm not the only one. So solving the problem, you know that your product is going to work because you're giving people something that they need and want. So number 4, what is needed to launch that product? So right here, you can see I have a little diagram. This is outlining, you know, something that I would need to give to a manufacturer to start my product. So you want to think about development. You also want to count the cost. So development in terms of what type of materials you're going to need. You want to design your product. You want to make it your own. You want to get everything together surrounding the development of the product. This right here is part of a tech pack, which is what I would need to manufacture my product. I would have to send this to a manufacturer. And I figure out, okay, this is what I need. It outlines what type of zipper I'm gonna need, what type of stitching I need, the type of material, the colors, everything is outlined in that, where the tags go, all the little features of the swimsuit and everything, the sizing chart. So then you would have to figure out all of the things around developing that. If you're going to be doing pastries, for example, you want to know what's going to be in your pastries, the ingredients, how it's going to need to be baked, what type of oven, you know, all of those things. So you want to think about the development so you have an idea of all what is needed to create that product. And once you know what you need to create that product, you want to count the cost. So counting the cost, you're going to be looking at manufacturing. If manufacturing is outsourced, then you want to think about that in the short term. So it will only be a temporary thing to outsource until you can afford a plant of your own. So you want to plan for today and you want to plan for the future. Whether it be in a foreign country or in your country, where you can provide employment to your people. It says in the Ministry of Healing, page 194 as well, missionary families are needed to settle in the waste places. Let farmers, financiers, builders, and those who are skilled in various arts and crafts go to neglected fields to improve that land, to establish industries, to prepare humble homes for themselves, and to help their neighbors. So you're thinking of it in terms of ministering to others as well, improving the lands in other places where they need to be improved, and also to bring the gospel to those people. So you want to think of long term. If you're going to be manufacturing your product, you can start off using a manufacturer in a different country, but then you want to build towards creating your own manufacturing plant and providing employment to your people and also to people who are in need as well. So packaging, you also want to think about the packaging of your product, where you're going to use boxes or bags, how much that's going to cost. Also the time frame. You want to figure out how long it's going to take to manufacture that product, because you also have to put in the funds, and you don't want things to go too slowly. You obviously want things to go quickly, but you want to be able to figure out how much time it's going to take so that you can know how much means you're gonna need to go into that, and have everything organized in such a way that you can understand, okay, I can take these steps now and these steps later. Also, you want to think about funding. So whether you're going to be self-funding, which you would start from scratch, so you'd have to work your way up. You do, a few things that what you can with your hands right now, and then you just keep building on that, saving and building. So working and creating the means to provide yourself with the funding that you need to launch your product. There's also crowdfunding. That's where you can, stuff like Kickstarter and other platforms where you can have other people either donate to your cause, or they can pre-purchase your product or service so that you can use that money to put into your product and create the product, which you will then give them that product in the future, and then also create a platform for your product as well. And also investor funding. So there are people out there who want to invest in a product. They have the money to invest in the product, and they would then have shares in your product, or own a part of your company, but then they would just put big funding into your product and get it going right away. That's something that you could look into as well. Also, you can take out loans to fund your product as well. And that's why it's also important for all of the funding. It's important to have an outline, to know, what you need to develop the product, the costs, and, have everything organized beforehand so that people can see a clear view of what it's going to be, where it's going, if it's feasible. And that way an investor can fund your product, or that way how much you need to borrow, and how long it's going to take to create that product, so that if you do borrow, you're able to pay back the money in time, and just have everything in an organized manner, so that it's going to work, whether it's going to work or not. So another thing that you need to get started to launch your product are skills. And these are very important, but even if you don't have the skills, don't let it stop you from starting. So all of these are very important, but having sales skills is really important when you're starting any business or ministry. You can have the best product in the world, but if you don't know how to sell it, it's useless. If you don't know how to sell it or give it to the right people, then it's not going to get out there. So sales is very important. And if you don't know much in sales, there are ways to find out, about sales and how you can market your product. Or you can get someone who is gifted in sales that is willing to partner with you, or hire someone who is gifted in sales that can promote your product. That is so important. You really can have the best product, but as long as if you can get it out there, that's the only way it's going to work. Also, communication is so important as well. In running any business or ministry, communication with team members, suppliers, or customers, customer service can make or break your business, especially customer service. You need to have communication skills and your team needs to have communication skills, if you have one as well, to make sure everything runs smoothly. Good communication is so important, and also customer service. There's the same company that I was telling you I bought this swimsuit from, that I found. Their customer service was terrible. And I said to myself, never buying from them again. Because just, if a customer can come to you and they feel good about your business and they feel appreciated and they feel like they're, a customer worthwhile, they're going to buy for you for years to come from you. They're going to love you. But the moment you make your customers feel like, they're just paying you, for your product, and they don't have any, if you make your customers feel terrible, they're not going to want to buy anything from you. And so communication is really important, especially in customer service. It can make or break your business in all aspects. Also, leadership. When you're running a business or a team, leadership is very important. You're going to want to have, now leadership is a little tricky as well, because being a leader is not only about being able to tell somebody what to do, but it's also about being a people person, being able to understand that, people's struggles or hardships, being able to solve problems, because there's always going to be problems. There's always going to be problems in any relationship, and in a business relationship, there will be problems as well. So you want to be able to be a good problem solver, and a good leader has good problem solving skills. A good leader is a people person. A good leader is also able to iron things out, help people to feel comfortable and happy in their work environment, and they're able to adequately lead the team, direct people where to go and what to do in the right manner. And if you don't have leadership skills, there are ways to find out how to get those leadership skills. There are so many even free classes and courses on leadership, and but it's very important. And if it's not your forte, you can always hire a manager. Also, money management. This can make or break any ministry or business as well. You need to become financially literate. Now, there's a very one thing that's very, I think that the school system should teach is financial literacy to everyone, because it's something that is so lost sight of, it just in general, and also the media and just what we see every day. We're bombarded with buy this, buy that. We have to re-establish our ideas on finances, because if you're spending the money that you don't have on things that you don't need, then how are you supposed to put that money back into your business? How is the business supposed to run? So you need to be able to be financially literate, and also know how to spend money, where to put money, and also be able to sacrifice. Sometimes you have to sacrifice what you need. It's always good to pay yourself first, but especially at the beginning of running a business, you have to make some sacrifices that might not be comfortable for you, but in the long run, it's going to help your business and become established and help it to continue running smoothly. Also, you want to think about the logistics, shipping, delivery, fulfillment. There are different things that you can do. You can contact a fulfillment center to put your product out for you, or you ship out your product yourself. What is needed to do that? How much it's going to cost, etc. So, also to develop the skills. If you don't have some of these skills, there are courses that you can take. There are books that you can read as well. There are so many resources online. And there's also the YouTube University. You can search up basically anything on YouTube these days, and there is somebody who's willing to teach you, and they have courses available, and they have books that they can advise you to read as well. There's just so much information out there when you have the world of the internet these days. So don't say, well, I don't have these skills, I can't get started. Still get started. Whilst you're in the planning stages, whilst you're doing what you need to do, you could be learning how to sell your product. You could be learning communication skills and leadership and money management. And we talk to people every day. We can use these skills on them and practice for our business as well. But it's so easy. You know, there's mentorship you can take as well. Whilst you're doing your planning, there are people that can mentor you and help you to get through little problems and issues, and just take you step by step through how to run your business as well. So those things are not a problem. You just need to think about gaining these skills if you need them. So number 5, launching your product. The exciting part. So you want to think about building a website. There is Shopify, which is a website platform that is really popular these days. It's very easy to use. You can build a website on your own. You know, you don't need a professional to do it. It's very easy. There's also ClickFunnels. It's also pretty easy, and WordPress is a little bit more advanced, but you can get somebody to build a website for you, or if you want to just do it yourself, Shopify is really easy and affordable as well. Then you want to think about crowdfunding. So if you want to launch a crowdfunding campaign, there are platforms like Kickstarter, Indiegogo, and GoFundMe. Those are things that you can use for crowdfunding. You can research those and you can figure out, you know, what's the best thing for you if you want to do any crowdfunding campaigns. Also, you want to think about marketing your product and service. And social media platforms are the best for marketing. Everything is online these days. Everybody's on social media. And so Facebook and Instagram ads are very important and pretty much, you know, number one for your ads now. And Google as well. Google is very good. You can advertise on Google. There are also YouTube, Pinterest, and TikTok even. So you want to think about how you're going to market your product, on which platforms, how to get started on those. If you need to build a social media platform in order to reach the audience that you are catering to, how to do that. And there are people who are gifted in those things as well.
Question.
Also there, you want to think about the manufacturer. So manufacturer being making your products, whether if you're doing it yourself or if you're going to get it overseas. So if you're going to launch a product, you need to get it manufactured. You decide where you're going to get it manufactured, how you're going to get it manufactured, and get started with that. And also the fulfillment of your product. So this is important for customer service, shipping and fulfilling the product in time, whether you're doing it yourself or outsourcing a fulfillment center. So you want to be able to get your things shipped quickly. Sometimes how fast it is not really an issue, especially only if it's not, you know, too long, like over 3 weeks. But quick shipping makes customers happy, and having it packaged well, making sure the product gets to them undamaged and stuff like that. So you want to figure out who's going to be fulfilling your product. If you're doing it yourself, you want to make sure that everything is, you know, done professionally and well. Right. So whatsoever thy hand findeth to do, do it with all thy might, for there is no work, nor device, nor knowledge, nor wisdom in the grave whither thou goest. Ecclesiastes 9:10. So when we're dead, we can't do anything. So we got to do it now whilst we're alive, well, and healthy and strong. So today is the day. If you want to start something, you got to start now. Start making the baby steps now. Otherwise, it will never get done. And also, the youth instructor says the life of Jesus was filled with industry, and he took exercise in performing varied tasks in harmony with his developing physical strength. In doing the work that he marked out for him, he had no time for indolence and exciting, useless amusement. He was trained in useful labor and even for the endurance of hardship. So sometimes we have to sacrifice our time and our energy to get things moving because we're looking forward to the future, who we're going to be ministering to, and how we're going to be doing that. How are we going to reach the masses? These days, the internet, we're able to reach so many through the internet. And most of our industries and stuff, we have to think about online, because right now this is where everybody's at. And then also, if we want to reach as many people as we can, sometimes we have to think big, and we have to start working towards that goal. And it says, Jesus is our example. And it said Jesus had no time for useless amusements. And we're not talking about spending time with your family and having a little fun here and there. But, sometimes we spend all of our means and our energy on things that are just temporary pleasures. And right now, especially in the times that we're living in, we need to be focused and focused on industry. Jesus did his work perfectly. Jesus was an industrious man, and he's our example, and he wants us to start our industry, to start making things happen so that we can show an example of him. We can work while it is day, and we will endure the hardship that comes in order to fulfill that goal. And then we'll end here today. So we'll just have a word of prayer as we end, and then we can have some question and answer. Dear Lord, we thank you so much for allowing us to go through these little pointers and these little things to open our minds to your graces and your mercy and your encouragement and how you want us to work and do. Lord, you have given us work for our good and for our benefit. And we just pray that even as you have blessed us with many talents and many skills, Lord, even if we don't see them right now, I just pray that each and every one of us may take hold of the calling that you have for us and say, Lord, what would you have me to do? Lord, what do you want me to do today? Lord, we know that you will answer our prayers as long as it is in accordance to your word. We thank you so much for all that you have done for us in our lives. And I pray that you may encourage each and every listener here tonight, that they may be strengthened and that they may have the energy and the zeal to do what you are calling them to do right now. We thank you and we praise you in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay. Also, if you're interested in the swimsuit line, my husband is going to post the link in the chat so you guys can check it out. You can join we have a Facebook group as well for people to see the process and, to add their 2 cents if they want to. And also, if you put in your email, you'll get early access to the items, and you can see the progress there when we launch and everything.
Thank you so much for sharing. We really, really appreciated all of the information that you gave. I was taking notes, learning for myself. there were some questions in the chat. So for those who want to ask questions, you can raise your hand and we will acknowledge you and you can go ahead. But I think there was a question in the chat. Somebody wanted you to repeat the program you had for building your website.
Building the website?
Yes, to repeat your program for building your website.
Okay, so I think I just mentioned building the website. Do they mean the Shopify?
Okay, let me see if I can have him.
So I just
and
mentioned
Descott, can you
Shopify,
unmute so you can explain
which
yourself?
is
She mentioned a do-it-yourself program to build your website. I just wanted her to repeat what program that was.
Okay, so there's a website a website platform called Shopify that's really easy to use. If you go on there, they have themes and everything that you can just choose from, and it's easy to put together a website from scratch. Anybody can use it if you're computer literate. It's a very easy website platform. Then there's also ClickFunnels and WordPress, but Shopify is the easiest one that that you can use, and it's also affordable.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, any more questions? You can go ahead and raise your hand. I know we have a lot of entrepreneurs out there that may have some questions. So go ahead, this is your moment. You can either raise your hand or push your question in the chat. Go ahead, I see your hand. And Scott, go ahead.
Yes, I went on the link and I thought there were images of the swimsuit. All I saw was, one second. Finally functional modest swimsuit that's good looking. But there's no images. That's what it should be, or?
Yeah, there's supposed to be an image on there. I'll have to check it out. But I don't have a lot of images on there at the moment. But if you join the Facebook group, I've been sharing some of the ideas on there, and I will be sharing this week some of the items that are finalized. So it's something that's I'm just starting. So I don't have a lot of the images available at the moment, but I will be sharing those soon. And I'll be sending them through email as well.
I see somebody else in the chat was asking to repeat the website again.
Shopify.
Shopify. Okay, somebody
ClickFunnels.
just posted it in the chat, so that should help.
Yes.
Did everybody get that? Shopify. Okay, awesome. Any more questions, anybody? This is your opportunity. What's the website for the modest wear? Somebody wants to know a little bit more about the modest wear and the website name. Okay, so the link is in the chat. Oh, I think somebody was asking about a crowdfunding for, I guess, I'm not too sure if it was for ministry. Like to explain how crowdfunding would work.
So there are different types of crowdfunding. I think most people would be familiar with GoFundMe. You write out what you want to do. Most people for stuff like if they want to raise funds for, you know, somebody who's sick, or they want to raise funds for their ministry for fixing, like we did fixing our road and stuff like that. But you can do it for products as well. Kickstarter is one that's popular for products. Basically, you would outline your product, all of the plans that you have, the things that you want to start with, what's your future plan, and then you will also make it available for people to, so they basically donate to your cause or to your product in the way that they buy it ahead of time. So like a pre-order. So they would buy the product before it's manufactured. And so a bunch of people will buy the product. And so you'll make the money to produce the product. And once you have that, you produce the product and then you send it off to those donated. And then you also launch your product as well and put it out there for others. So it's kind of like they're investing in the product to get it, but they're just investing ahead of time. So it's like a pre-order. But it's really helpful because, you know, people get to kind of see what they're working with, they're going to get the product, and, you know, it's kind of a win-win for everybody.
Thank you for that. I really like that idea. Monique is asking, how do you strike a balance between ministry and business? How do you strike a balance between ministry and business?
Yeah, that's that's a tough one, you know, because it's a constant, for me, it's easier when your business is also a ministry. But when you have multiple things going on, it can get kind of hard. But as long as you keep strong in your devotional life and keep your mind focused on what the Lord wants you to do, and you're able to say no sometimes, then everything will work out great. You know, every situation is different. You know, I can't say what you can for one situation or the other, but the Lord really works things out if you keep holding strong in your devotional life. And also, I'm a people pleaser, so I say yes to everything, and that got me in trouble a few too many times. But sometimes you got to say no. You got to say, I can't do this, and you know, put your time in order. Make sure you're on a good schedule, and that you can make time for the things that you need to, and everything will work out if you plan your things right.
Thank you so much for that. Any more questions, guys? Feel free to ask questions as it pertains to even your own skill. So if you currently have something that is your talent that you maybe want to ask a little bit of a question about on how to start, feel free to ask questions on that as well. So the worst you could hear is we don't know, and then we'll get some research for you. So feel free to ask questions. I know the hardest thing for most persons is to start. The initiative to actually just get started, that is usually the hardest part. And what I've learned is you need to gain the momentum. So sometimes you will work really hard, maybe for a week or two, and then you're already tired. Like, where is the results? Where's the returns on this? And you're working really hard, a week, a month into it, and nothing seems to be coming. But one of the things that I remember and God taught me, there was one time I was taking a nature walk, and there was one huge tree, and that tree just was massive. Its roots were pushing everywhere, and it was going over boulders, splitting boulders. And I'm like, whoa, this tree is just grand. And then God had to remind me that this tree started like a really, really small, fragile plant. And I was like, sometimes we don't have the patience to wait for the plant to grow. And that was God's lesson to me at the time, watching this magnificent tree and then thinking like, you'd have to wait some years to get that tree from a plant into what it was. that day. So
Amen.
do you have a formula for pricing?
Yes. So, I mean, it varies a little bit, but usually, so for your pricing, you want to make the product maybe 4 times the amount of what it costs you to make it, because that's going to also include your shipping costs and everything. And then you also have to pay yourself. You also have to think about the time that it takes you, because you're going to pay for time as well. So, you know, that's a good formula. Maybe 4 times the amount of the cost of your product. It also depends on what you're doing as well. So when I was just sewing garments, for me, the pricing was dependent on my time. So the time it takes me to, first of all, how much it costs for the materials, the fabric, the thread, you know. I also put a little bit of cost in there for using the sewing machine, you know, electricity and stuff like that, which, you know, it's minor for one thing, but then, you know, if you're using it constantly, you got to think about that. But then also my time. So I had to think about how much do I want to pay myself per hour to sew this, and how many hours is it going to take me to sew this? And so then you factor in all of those costs as well. But if you're making like a product that you manufacture a specific product, you want to think about the cost of that product, and then maybe 4 times the amount would be a good range to sell the product. That factors in everything like shipping costs, and then maybe returns, and then maybe the time it takes you, and, you know, customer service and all of those things. That's a good formula overall. But then, you know, you just think about all the minor little things as well, depending on what you're doing. So if you're going to be baking, how many hours does it take you to bake this cake and put all the decorations on it? How much are you going to pay yourself for the hour? You think it's worth this amount of time, and so on.
Thank you so much for that. Somebody was also asking, when you have a health store, what type of company best to be under? Sole trader, partnership, or limited company?
Okay, so yeah, that's
I guess it has to do with the size too.
That's also a question you can ask my husband.
Yeah.
Because we have a health food store, and he's going to be speaking tomorrow. So
Yeah.
if you're tomorrow, ask my husband.
I'm still here too. Just in case you want to ask me a question. Yeah. So I mean, in the United States, if you're here in the United States, then there's different type of classifications than if you're in the Caribbean or the UK or something like that. But in the United States, LLC would be better, limited liability company.
Okay.
And because for tax purposes, because if you have, like, let's say, a sole proprietor in the United States, it will be a higher tax bracket because you're sole proprietor. So they'll take, like, let's say 40% tax from you. But with an LLC, it's like a limited liability company, but also you have a protection if you get sued. It differentiates you from the company, so it's not your face. So limited liability company would be the one getting sued, not you. And you're not liable for that. And also, if a limited liability, you can pay yourself. So you can pay yourself as an employee. So then you get taxed like an employee instead of the whole business revenue becoming taxed. You only be taxed by the revenue, how much you pay yourself, and then the net profit after that. But a sole proprietor, everything is taxed. So you actually pay more in taxes as a sole proprietor or a partnership than an LLC. I'm guessing that it will probably work the same way in the Caribbean as well, a limited LTD, or in the UK. I'm sure that will work the same way as well. So I would, the only time I would do like sole proprietor is if you're doing something, like you're just starting off, by yourself, and you just want to start that way. But if you want to take things like a health food store and make it a big business and stuff like that, I will always suggest never starting as a sole proprietor or a sole entrepreneur.
Wow, thanks for that. Somebody was asking also, is there a difference between creating an industry and self-employment? Would that fall under the same thing?
Yeah, they're the same. Because if you're starting an industry yourself, then you're kind of supporting yourself as well. Though at first, you might have to make some sacrifices and stuff, so it won't start profiting you at first, possibly, depending on how you start. But yeah, they are the same. Once your business or industry can support you, then it is self-supporting.
Thank you for that. Somebody was also asking, what about partnership in ministry? Who should and should not be considered to partner with you in ministry?
That's one that you have to be very careful about. First of all, you want to make sure that you are partnering with somebody who has the same goals and aims and who is very committed to ministry. Also, people are going to be people. So you just want to make sure that you do everything legal and proper. You put everything on paper. You make sure everything is done rightly, even if, obviously you want to have trust in a business relationship. Even if you trust the person, you still have to make sure everything is on paper when you're partnering with somebody, because, you never know what people are going to decide to do. But you have to be very careful and ask the Lord, if you're planning to partner with somebody, who you're going to partner with, how it's going to benefit your ministry, and how you guys can work together to push that ministry forward. And continue to be prayerful throughout, because at the end of the day, the Lord is the one to take things ahead, and the devil can always get in the details. So you have to completely, give up yourself, and you want to look for somebody that you're partnering with who is also selfless and 100% committed to ministry. And you have to make sure you are as well selfless and 100% committed to the ministry and to the work of the Lord. Then you also have to be able to recognize that your ministry is not only to those out there, but also to the people in your company and on your team.
Amen to that. Thank you so much for that. And one of the things I'd like to even add to that, because somebody was sharing that they have a company and they partnering with someone, and they one person is upkeeping the website, whereas one person is doing something else. So it's always good to make sure that there's a skill that is brought in to assist the entire ministry. So it's not you both specializing in the same area. At least one person is specializing in one and somebody else is specializing in another. So there's a complement.
That always, yeah, and that always helps if there's any conflicts in the mix.
Yes.
If everyone's focused on one thing, it keeps a lot of discord out of the picture.
Yes. Any more questions? And one of the reasons why I wanted you to speak to us tonight, especially when it came to that, because majority of the time when we think of country living and self-supporting work, we think of the garden as the only means of income. So you have to plant something so that you can have an income. But I wanted everybody to consider what they had in their hand. What are your skills? And don't be afraid to use the skills that you have to use it as an income. Yes, she did explain. Somebody was asking, did you explain crowdfunding yet? I posted a question earlier. She actually did. I don't know if you probably were there when she did so. I don't know, maybe you probably weren't, but she did. I think that was one of the first questions that she answered. So do we have any more questions before we do our closing exercises? Feel free to ask. Anybody wants to raise their hand? Maybe a comment if you don't have any questions, any comments before we close? Can you restate it since we were not there earlier, please? Okay, somebody wants to a little bit of an explanation on crowdfunding.
Yes, so crowdfunding is basically what it says. You know, you get people outside to fund your product or service. So like there's a platform, most people are familiar with GoFundMe. People usually use it, you know, if they have to pay for some medical bills, or they want to fix their road, or they want to, you know, for ministries, fix their roof, or, you know, do something. They want a big amount of funding so that many people can donate a little bit and it adds up. So GoFundMe is one. Also, there is something called Kickstarter, where you can put your product or service up, all the details about it, the story behind it, so that people can see, you know, exactly what you want to start, where it's going. And also you can offer the product or service that you are that you want to give, and they can pay for it in advance. So it's basically like a pre-order of the product, and then you get it manufactured after you receive all the funding. You get it manufactured, and then you send it out to those who donated. And then you also have enough to put your product online and to launch it and everything like that. So they basically pay for the product ahead of time, the manufacturer, you give it to them. It's a win-win for everybody. Crowdfunding is a good thing. There's nothing wrong with crowdfunding. You know, if people want to donate to your cause or your service or anything like that, I think it's very good. You know, it's quite different from like if somebody is investing in your company, then, you know, they get a portion of it or something like that. But then if people are just funding it, then you're basically receiving free money unless they're buying the product ahead of time, which is something that I really like.
Thank you so much for that. Monique was saying, thanks for the session. While I don't have all the skills, I'm still encouraged to step out in faith. The information is very relevant. And Mark says, thank you for sharing. It was very informative. Now, for us to be bold and start writing our vision down. Yes, of course. And LG says, thanks for sharing. Love your presentation. God continues to bless your ministry. Thank you so much. We too were blessed as a result, and it's an encouragement to hear that, you know, when you move out into the country, it's not hopeless. You're not just going and leave your job and just find yourself in the country and then you don't know what to do next. You need to have that an income stream, and it's good to know that God has blessed us all with some form of a skill that we can use to help with generating income. So thank you so much for sharing that with us this evening. And tomorrow night, guys, you're going to be hearing about self-supporting work. Yes, it's similar to an industry, but I really wanted you guys to hear it from a female. That it's not just about farming. You can do other things when you move out into the country. You just have to be creative and find out what exactly God has given you. What is your talent? Find your niche. that, is looking for the things that God has given you, so that you can now move and start the work that you want to grow your industry. So tomorrow evening, you've got to be there so you can hear a little bit more about how you can create some form of income, especially now in St. Lucia. A lot of young people I know have lost their income, especially those who worked in the tourism industry. So feel free to start using your hands at this moment. So I'd like to thank you once again for joining us, Ms. Inga, and we thank you so much for your presentation. And as we close the session, we'll have a word of prayer to close, and then we will go through the how you can reach the recordings on the website, and how you can maneuver through the website to get the past recordings that some persons did not get access to. So at this moment, we bow our heads as we offer a word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for the lessons that we've learned. Lord, you have given each and every one of us skills and talents. Help us to find them, dear Lord. Teach us how to look and ask the right questions to ourselves so that we can find them, and that we could come to you with them, dear Lord, so that you can show us how to get started, where we should start, how small or how big that it should start, dear Heavenly Father, so that we will be able to be a blessing, and that this would be a ministry to share the gospel into all the world in our generation. We thank you once again. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, so, also, I would like everyone to keep us in prayer.